They get pretty large.
All right, we're going to convene the meeting at 6:04. We have a quorum.
Yep.
I'm sure that the meeting agenda is in order because this is a special meeting of the Penfield Building Committee, called to approve some financial issues and invoices and avoid the Thanksgiving holiday for the next meeting. So we're ready to go. We can't change the agenda, and we don't have the opportunity for a public comment in a special meeting. Is that right, Judy?
It's up to the chairman.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
not required.
Okay. Minutes will be postponed to the next meeting. And our first agenda item is report from Shawmut regarding the project progress and any outstanding issues, schedule, and completion date. So who's going to address us? Mark, are you? What?
Jeff, I'll let you over the 60. Just gotta sit over next to Kevin.
So we recently put out a 6-week schedule, which takes us towards the end of the project. And at this point in time, we are extremely confident that we are going to hit our January 8th, it was the 6th or somewhere around there, turnover date. A ton of progress has been made in the last couple of weeks, which was pretty much our goal to get a lot of work in place in the month of November. At this point in time, kind of a general overview, all of the mechanical systems are in. All the new mechanical systems are in. All of the old existing mechanical systems have been tested and are all currently up and running. So right now, Penfield, all the existing systems, the heat's on, all of the ventilation systems, as far as we know, everything's up and running and working. So actually, tonight's the first night that we're going to leave the system on and running overnight. Up until now, it's just been during the day, so we can sort of monitor it and keep an eye on it. Pavement is completed, along with curbing. The town of Fairfield jumped right on the line striping while the pavement was nice and clean. So that's all been completed. Today we had our first of a series of deliveries for landscaping. So a lot of the landscape plants are on site and being installed. That'll probably go on until next week. So sometime before Thanksgiving, most, if not all, of the landscaping, and I would have to say just about the entire exterior of the building will be, for the most part, complete outside of a tiny bit of painting. All the exterior decks, rails, and ramps are in, with the exception of the cable rail system. As far as the inside goes, again, all the mechanical systems are on. Sprinkler system, the old and new systems are all in. Final inspections on those are early next week, Monday and Tuesday. All the electrical systems, for the most part, are in and on. Some of the lighting, obviously, will go up with finishes. And a lot of the finishes are currently underway. A lot of the replacement tile is already being done and underway. Some of the interior painting is getting completed, but we're really focusing on wrapping up the outside. I think for the most part, that's pretty much covers all of it.
Any questions from the committee?
No.
Any other issues?
No, I think the biggest, concern everybody had was the existing mechanical system, as was our concern. So we've had people working on it now for about 3 days straight, and it's up, it's running, it's working. There's going to be a couple of items that we're going to suggest from our mechanical contractor professionals that we probably should look at, but I would have to say that they're very, very small items. There's nothing major. There's nothing that I don't think is going to be a real big money item, high ticket item. The fire alarm panel, we were a little bit concerned about that. We actually had the fire alarm contractor out. We were able to find the codes that get us into the panels, seeing as though we didn't have them. We were able to figure those out, and we do have the fire panel at this point up and running. It's not being monitored, and we don't have all the devices tied in, but we do at this point feel fairly confident that the fire alarm panel should not be an issue whatsoever. So I think a lot of the unknown questions are done.
When is that fire alarm going to be active and monitored?
So we have been speaking to the town of Fairfield, and they are currently in the process of contracting with their service provider to get us the series of phone lines that they need for the building. Once those phone lines are installed and we have the sprinkler system completely up and running, which again should be probably shortly after Thanksgiving, we need all of those things sort of in place in order to put the system on and have it running without being in a trouble mode. So once we kind of have some of that stuff done, which is going to be shortly after Thanksgiving, I think we'll, and we get the phone lines that we can tie into, I think we'll be able to get the system up and running and monitoring everything. So it's really in the very near future. I think the phone lines at this point are probably the only thing that we don't have a ton of control over, but I know that the town is working very diligently to get that in.
Any comments from the committee?
Jeff, I'm not sure if we've addressed this or not. Has anybody looked inside the ductwork to see the condition and the sort of the cleanliness of the existing, sort of the remaining ductwork in the building?
I could probably answer that by saying no, but I think by looking at the filters, because we did replace all the filters on the system, and none of the filters look terribly dirty. Usually,
You have filters on now when you're running it?
we have new filters
Yeah.
on now. We put new filters in, but we also did is on all the intakes where it would take in any construction debris, we put pre-filter systems on.
Great.
So those pre-filters would trap any little bit of construction
Gravel,
debris
dust,
that might be
yeah.
generated, so that all your new filters are protected.
You're not seeing it through the supply registers, like
We don't,
mouse
no,
poop and...
they're not bad.
And stuff coming
No,
out.
they're not too bad.
Okay.
They're not bad at all from what we can see, without going deep into them. But if the filters were really jammed up and had a lot of debris on them, then we would say, yeah, definitely dig into it. But the filters were relatively clean, so we
Okay.
would assume that they're not too bad.
Okay.
We can stick our heads in it. I'll do that maybe early next week. We'll kind of
Yeah,
get into
it'd be
one
nice
of
to
the
have at
ducts.
least a visual inspection of like any of the duct, sort of the duct lining or anything like that may, I don't know if there's potential for any moisture damage in any of that may have accumulated, so it'd be nice to have at least a little bit of assurance on it.
We'll definitely take a peek at it, and if we look in there and we see that it might be questionable, we'll either get somebody to look into it a little more, or we'll report to the committee and let them know what we're looking at. Oh, and the insulation. So we have, for the most part, completed the added insulation scope. That was kind of a big concern. And with that insulation, we were able to capture all of the drain lines, or the water supply lines. We were able to capture them on the warm side of the building. So
Okay.
I think the insulation, as it's installed now, is a huge improvement over the way it was before.
Good. And it's done?
It's not 100%. The insulation part is done. We still have more sort of pieces and parts to the insulation scope. What I mean by that is we had to take all the ceilings out to do it, so a lot of that has to get put back in place. We actually have the town coming out tomorrow to do what we call an above ceiling inspection. That above ceiling inspection will capture the insulation so that hopefully our new insulation install, the town will come out and give it a 100% approval. That's what we're shooting for.
All the old insulation was taken out?
All the old insulation, I will have to say that probably about 60% of the old insulation was taken out. As we took more out, we did find more insulation that was compromised either by animals or something that was up in the ceiling. All of that absolutely came out. Any good bats of insulation, we actually pushed up and then put our new insulation, our R30, We put our new insulation in with the vapor barrier on it, so in some areas you actually have a lot more than the R38 that's required. The other portion of the insulation scope we have is, once the inspection is done on the insulation we've installed in the areas of the bathroom where the ceilings were either, were compromised, we're going to have the town inspect those. We're going to have to sheetrock up on those areas, and then we're going to blow in, which was the second phase of the insulation that we were going to do. We're going to blow in above all the bathroom areas.
Okay.
We don't want to blow that in until the sheetrock's in, because if that insulation comes down, we're going to have a giant mess. So that's why I say there's still a little bit more to go on that.
Okay. Just for the record, this building is being turned back over to the town better than it was when it was built, as far as a lot of improvements, a lot of maintenance issues have been picked up. So, well within our allowances, I hope, and budget. We'll hear about that. Anything else from your side, Mark? Ken, anything? Okay. Any further questions on this item from the committee? Rich, are you here with us?
Yeah, he's here. Rich, you got any questions?
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
All right, Kevin, do you want to give us your report as far as design and engineering issues? And
Sure. So our office is continuing with our 2 to 3 time weekly site visits that we make. The progress of the job is going very well. As you probably have seen if you've gone by there lately, the parking lot has been paved. The landscaping is going in. The town's contribution to the project in terms of the parking lot work, preparing for it, doing the areas around the parking lot, such as the bioswales, went amazingly well. And I think the committee should really send a thank you to Joe Michelangelo and his staff for that work. The building work is going along nicely. Most of the exterior work is completed. The last remaining pieces are the deck railings, as Jeff mentioned, that are being worked on so that the stainless steel cables can be pulled through them. So at this point, I believe all of the posts are in and the blocking between them, and the posts are being painted so that when the stainless cables go in, there's no additional painting afterwards, so it's a very neat installation. The decking work is almost complete. There's some areas that still have to be corrected, but many of the corrections that we noted on site have already been taken care of in terms of spacing of the boards and where there are joints, whether boards are fastened or not fastened. Let's see, the interior work is progressing nicely. The trades are continuing and are almost completed with their rough-ins in terms of sprinklers, the electrical rough-in, mechanical rough-ins, all those things have happened for the new locker wing. Jeff has gotten inspections on those. The new bathrooms have been closed up in the locker room and are ready for, I believe, tile and wall finishes very soon. So there are really no design issues that we foresee. One design issue that we're closing the loop on is the acoustical treatment of the great room. So I've met out at the site this week with the acoustical consultant again to get him back up to speed. He's going to do a simple set of plans as far as exactly where to position the treatment materials so we get the right effect of sound, or deadening sound, I should say, in the room. So we'll have that put together pretty soon.
how can that be done and not look like it was kind of an afterthought and kind of messed up the architecture or the look of that room?
Well, there's a couple of strategies. One is that the material we put on the walls, we want it to look that it's look like it's laid out symmetrically, and that the fabric complements the paint colors in the room.
Kevin, could you just give a macro description of the approach that he's
Sure.
thinking of using?
There are really only 2 walls in the room that have enough solid surface to receive treatment. Right, the wall facing the water is all glass, and the wall facing the hallway towards the locker wing is mostly doors. So it's really going to focus on the wall facing the front entrance and the wall facing the kitchen. So it'll be a series of individual fabric wrap panels that will be hung from the wall, higher up on the wall, so they're not at a height where they're going to get dirty. So they'll be above the wainscoting. And then what I talked to him about is there were a couple options he suggested for the roof. One was to do the exact same thing and apply panels to the wood decking. The other is to actually hang them vertically in between the trusses. And my concern with that was that we would start to interrupt the sight lines out to the ocean. But he feels that he can get them up high enough that they're not going to be within that line of sight. So I think that might look more attractive instead of just, sticking them up to the roof, but actually have them hang more as tapestries, as long as they don't stick down low enough that they interrupt the view.
Right. Okay.
So that's what I've asked them to put together.
Is this, as far as this room is concerned, is this art or science or both as far as this solution?
No, there's a science to calculating reverberation time for sound. I mean, that's how they came up with the square footage of treatment that was necessary.
So
They actually run calculations on it.
It'll be noticeable.
Yeah, the impact, the difference should be very noticeable. That there'll be enough absorptive area to keep the sound from just bouncing around from hard surface to hard surface, which was what the problem was.
And has there was some question about this material being available from another project, or?
We're still sorting through that. Jeff has some leads on where we may be able to get it on short order. But we have a good feeling that we can do that without a delay to the project. I guess I'll just leave it at that for now.
Any questions about this?
No.
This would be a nod to the Board of Finance or somebody who was really concerned about noise in that building.
That was a problem.
Hmm?
That was a
Was
problem.
an issue.
Was it?
Yeah, Jerry was working on it just before the building collapsed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think particularly on Jeff's end, the project is really going out of our way collectively to turn over a better building and look for things that should be addressed, even if they're not part of the project. Jeff has been very proactive. He spent a lot of time, like, for example, on the phone system to try to figure out why there were 7 or 8 numbers coming into the building and sort that out. We're going to be talking about, I think, some additional scope items, like, for example, there's some additional interior rooms in the building that really should be repainted, and that, now's the time to add that to the project. Some additional floors that need to be tiled. So anything like that comes up that's something that should be addressed, we're all making it a priority, and, Jim is at all the weekly meetings on site, and, we try to keep him informed as well as everything that's going on that should be part of the project.
Is the building secure, and have you contacted the risk manager?
The building is secure. All the supplemental anchoring to the foundation has been completed. That was done last week. I inspected it last week. I will close the loop with the risk
Because
manager.
that'll change our insurance, that'll save money for the town.
Yep.
Any other questions on this report? And if there are questions regarding these proposed changes or discussions we're going to have with you, Ben, you both will chime in? Great. Any other questions then on this agenda item? A report from Colliers as far as the project status?
I lumped, we have a report and I lumped the invoice packet in here as well, just to keep it brief. I did bring copies of the GMP contract schedule. I don't think it's necessary. Shawmut went through their 6-week look-ahead. We've gone over that. It generally coincides with the GMP contract schedule. There's been some resequencing of some things here and there, but overall, I think we have a good feeling that as long as we don't run into any major bumps in the road, Shawmut will finish on time. As we always do, I've attached our detailed financial summary report. We don't have to go through all this because I've broken it down to the simpler terms as we move on, but this is just the abstract view of all of the project financials, including soft costs, construction costs, and contingencies. That bottom line on the second page of the report, that shows you the nuts and bolts of where we're at. The these are in thousands, obviously, but our project budget's all the way to the left, and that includes soft costs. The $4,622,300 is what's been paid. We still have $2,526,300 that has been unpaid to date that we will incur over the next couple of months. So we have a total, we have contracted up to this point $7,148,600 out of the $7,447 that we, the project budget incurs. So we have a gap right now that we plan, whether it's through contingencies or returns to the owner at the end of the project, but which we'll get into more. But right now, we're looking at $298,400 of uncontracted work at the moment. If you flip the page, this will get into our contingency. It's just a simpler breakdown to follow. We started with $302,800. To date, the net expenditures that we've approved to date through the committee is $43,750. We have a little bit of overages and soft costs to date. When you add that up and subtract it from the starting contingency, as we sit here today, we have $252,450 of contingency remaining. That doesn't include the pending exposures, which is the next line. So on the following page after this, I have Colliers has $164,895 in potential exposures that we're tracking, which if all of these came to fruition, and they came to fruition at the cost that we have estimated, that would still leave the project with $87,555 in owner's contingency. When you flip the page, this is our complete list of everything that we're tracking as possible exposures. And to the best of our ability and knowledge right now, these are the amounts that we feel like they may incur. Obviously, if things change or if we find out more information, things may get added, deleted, or these values may change. But for right now, we're tracking $164,895 in possible exposures.
Could you stop there so
Yep.
we can ask any questions?
Sure.
Anybody in the committee have any questions about the two summary pages, pages 1 and 2? Or the reconciliation of the owner's contingency, which is right after that, showing $87,555? None? Okay, that said, do you want to talk to us a little bit about this remaining list, this list of pending exposure list?
Sure.
Are these, is there, help us out here, is this going to all be spent, or
So-
where are we?
So, I think that a lot of these issues on here will come to fruition. I'm not going to say all, but it's possible. But I think the majority of these are, because more than half of these are RFIs, requests for information, that the contractor has sent to Kevin, to Stefano and Chamberlain, to answer things that they're finding on site. And we're tracking them because it appears at first analysis of these RFIs, and then when we compare it to the contract scope, that there's a little bit of a scope gap, or that it wasn't included in the contract. So this is the reason why we're tracking them, and most of these RFIs, if not all at this point, have been answered by Kevin. And if they were nullified, then I've taken them off, so the ones that are remaining are the ones that I feel like might have an impact to owner's contingency. Some of these may come from allowances. We don't know enough about them yet to say that for sure, but there is a chance that some or more than some of these will come from allowances. But for right now, they're kind of in the infant stages, so we have them tracking on our owner's contingency line.
Can I say something, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, I think Rich is on the phone. I think this committee should have a vote of gratitude to people like Steve, Rich, and Ben. You have no idea how much time and effort goes in to look at these things. I mean, every invoice is looked at. Some of the things on here, Ben really don't belong in here, may not come off here, or something like that. But there's a lot of time and effort goes in look at this thing. I think, under the circumstances, Mr. Chairman, I don't think I'd want to go through some of these things. Some of these things I think we have some questions on. And while I don't disagree that these conceivably could be $168,000, I don't believe I can say that, because you know that every meeting starts off with, don't use my contingencies.
Right.
Ben has done a really yeoman job.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you. Because you're one of the, you didn't mention yourself.
Well, I'm a one-horse guy. I say, don't spend my contingencies. Then Steve says, shut up, now let's get a look at the invoices. Every meeting starts and ends the same way.
So, just for the record, many of these issues, this is a question, are driven by unforeseen issues when the project was documented, when the drawings were done, Kevin? In other words, these just come up in an ordinary course when you're repairing a building?
I think most of them are things that have come up because of site conditions. Some of them are things we didn't have covered in the documents. I don't think any of these are things that we had to, like, oh my God, retroactively tear out something we had just built.
Yeah.
But they are things that had to be added to the project that we didn't have included in the GMP.
This
And
line,
I can go through each one.
No,
I don't think
How
we want
detailed
to.
we want to get into it.
No, we've been through it, and this is a forecast list. This list has always been in front of us every month. Line item 42, where are we with that? That's been one of the oldest
Yeah.
issues.
That,
Have we resolved that?
I don't believe it's resolved. Ken can speak to it. Ken Persino from Shawmut and Steve Pittinello from the committee, they've been spearheading this effort. We did an original analysis, colleagues, a while ago, but if you have anything to add.
Yeah.
So it's still open, nothing's been resolved yet. We're reviewing the documents with the town of Fairfield Construction Department to go over everything to make sure that items were not double paid and that it's all accurate. So that's been ongoing for a little while now, so right now it's still open,
Okay,
pending.
all right. Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions regarding this?
No, I just look at the larger numbers, that's all.
Yep.
So the total exposures leave the remaining owner's contingency at 87,555?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So the following page is just a reiteration of the list that we just went over. This is just our detailed version of it,
Yeah.
which includes all of the history of all of the exposures that we closed out, approved, pending, so we don't have to go through this. This is just for record.
When you need magnified glass.
That's right. The following page is the allowance tracker. This is a Shawmut that the project manager from Shawmut, Mark, and I, we review on at least once a week basis. But this is what has been, this is the left column, 89,170, was what the original contract amount of allowances were. We've spent, I don't have it totally here, but what we have left to date right now is $76,529. I do want to preface that by saying, though, that there are some allowances that I know, some of them are captured on the contingency line, but there are allowances that I believe are going to be popping up over the course of this next month. So we're at $76,529 today, but I think that's going to change. Anybody have any questions on this?
Any questions from the committee?
The next page is this is construction contingency. This is Shawmut's contingency, not ours. They started with $270,544. We vetted every single one of these budget transfers, and they were approved by the committee that you see on the left here. And so today, in construction contingency, Shawmut is at $249,789. Wherever this number ends up at the end of the day, when the project is done, the owner has a return of 75% of this value. But the project isn't done yet, so obviously this can change. So that's all I have, Jim, because the next page is our invoice packet. In terms of where the finances are and our contingency at.
So, as we stand tonight, I was just trying to calculate this, as we start to finish up the project, we have 75% of the 249, is that what you're saying?
As of tonight, yep.
Potentially.
Yeah, so there's a 75% return on 249 if 249 didn't change, but as of tonight, it's 249.
Right.
I don't think it's in anyone's best interest to start writing checks for this. This is a work in process, back and forth. So again, I don't disagree. On behalf of the subcommittee, this is a number, but again, I think they're subject to change too. That's all I'm saying.
Ben and Jim, if contingency, or sorry, if allowances are not used, is that returned 100% to the owner, or is it, how does that?
So, that's a contractual element that both Shawmut and us are working at. There is language in the contract that states that the difference between the GMP totals plus change orders versus what has been approved when the project's closed out, that the owner will be returned 75% of that value, which would include construction contingency and allowances. Shawmut would be returned the 25%, correct me if I'm wrong, up to a maximum of $90,000, right?
Correct, yeah.
Right, so yes.
So, in one of the project, job site meetings, there was a question about using contingency, not strictly by line item, to try to clear up some of these remaining issues, right? Allowances, I'm sorry, the allowances. Is that happening, or where are we?
It's beginning to happen. So some of the RFIs that you saw on my contingency exposure log, some of these items have to be addressed if they're critical path items. If they are not addressed immediately, then that holds up the finishing process for Shawmut moving down the road. And if we have a month in between meetings, or even a couple of weeks between meetings, there are certain things that fall under the purview and some of the things that don't, but that could be captured in allowances, which is the reason why when we looked at the allowance tracker, I told you that I think that number is going to be coming down. So everything that's in green that Mark just passed out, this is what Shawmut at the moment is proposing to use allowances for, to keep the project on schedule, to keep it moving forward so that they can continue down the critical path and get the job done on time. This work would be tracked on time and material on a software program by Shawmut, reviewed by Colliers, reviewed by Kevin at Stefano and Chamberlain, and then reviewed by the Finance Subcommittee. These are things like flooring repairs where there's flooring and subflooring that is either rotted out or not suitable for reuse, and it'd be a small room, and it's an easier task to use some of the Division 6 allowances as opposed to wait a month or a couple of weeks to try to get a change order approved that's inevitable, and then delay the project.
So, I think we're within our agenda. If we, or is anybody tonight looking for approval to use allowance items for this? Or are we within our, do you have the authority?
I think that the scope at which the things that are highlighted in green here fall under Division 6 items in the allowances.
Okay,
So I don't.
and let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions on this? These are the kind of the remaining items, right? Anything else, do you think, coming up over the next 2 or 3 weeks? Have everybody walked through the building to make sure that we picked everything up?
The flooring repairs may be a little more involved because there's an additional room we have to capture because of a walkthrough from the health department, the storage room for the kitchen, dry food storage.
Right.
It's supposed to have a tile floor, it doesn't have a tile floor. Now is the time, we might as well
There's an asphalt
address
floor
that.
now, and it's coming up.
Yeah, okay.
That's what you showed me.
And we talked a little bit about the additional spaces that we're going to get painted. Is that on this list?
No, it's not.
No.
We do have 40 man-hour allowance for a painter for a week. Feel that's close, might be a little bit more, but the exposure for the added painting that we don't have.
So my thoughts on this, and my thoughts on this at the time when this came up was that as long as it won't impact the critical path, which I don't think it will at this point, then we should probably get a lump sum change order proposal cost on this. If it became something that was going to affect critical path, which I can't imagine that it would, that would be my opinion. No offense to Mark, but it would be just better for the project that way than just using a 40 man-hour allowance, if it's possible.
Does anybody have any questions on where we are with this? I think these are all a lot of the whole basket of small remaining items that we're going to use, fund with allowance.
We do have to be sensitive to the calendar. Their calendar doesn't have much left in it as far as when the
Right.
project's going to be done versus when the committee is going to meet again, if there are things that you need a vote on.
Right.
So just keep that in mind.
Well, the subcommittee is meeting in the interim, so again, it's really not holding it up completely.
It shouldn't be, but I agree with you. We were just talking before the meeting started about scheduling the next 2 or 3 dates for this committee, or looking at what our schedule is, and
The 8th and 22nd.
the 8th and 22nd? Well,
So-
we should hold to the 8th.
22nd's pretty
That's tight.
dicey.
That would be a very unpopular date, I would imagine.
It would be, yeah.
Maybe the 1st and 15th?
Well, we have invoices. Are invoices prepared by the 15th of the month?
They can be.
Yeah.
They can be.
All right. Moving along then, any other questions on this agenda item? Which takes us to...
Invoice package.
The invoice package?
Yep.
And we're prepared for the invoice package, I think you did.
Right.
The subcommittee had two
Everybody have that in
exceptions.
their package? Been handed out there?
Yeah.
If there aren't any questions, with the exceptions, the ones that you would like to bring up, I'll go right down the list. We'll wait until I get to those, or do you want to bring up?
No, we're...
Okay. That being said, we have the following invoices for the committee to approve tonight, and typically we've taken these individually. Invoice number from DeStefano and Chamberlain, 5845 in the amount of $10,910. Accept the motion.
I'll recommend...
I need to know
I'm
what
sorry,
it's
go ahead.
for.
Alex.
They need to know.
Do you have a list?
Yeah, but it doesn't say what it's for.
Construction phase services.
Yeah. Okay, the motion was made and seconded.
I made it. You
I'll
seconded
second
it? Yeah. In fact, you could probably just
We'll use the
assume
same-
that for the next
yeah.
eight, or I'm not sure where
Okay.
you have comments.
There's no comments with respect to invoices.
Invoice,
Okay.
so we're going to go right through it. So the motion's been made and seconded on invoice number 5845. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Next invoice, DeStefano and Chamberlain, 5844, in the amount of $1,500.
Construction phase services, Kevin?
This is the FEMA.
It might even be here. It's additional services related to the FEMA reimbursement process.
Just put down FEMA. All those in favor? Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Pass. This is Colliers, and it's invoice 16874 in the amount of $6,457.67. Motion made and seconded.
What is it for? Kevin?
Oversight?
Project oversight?
Oversight?
Project oversight. Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just Ben, in the future then, since we seem to need more description, maybe you'll put a second page with, because there's no room to put it there.
Right.
But I can just for the benefit of the committee, every one of these invoices was vetted very carefully by Steve, Rich, and myself. So,
Yeah. but
I'm not
the
disagreeing with you,
minutes
I'm only
has
telling you in the
say-
future,
make-
to
I'll
simplify
make
this
a
thing, we'll put a description on it.
Yeah, you're going to have to run
I'm
it
not
in landscape.
questioning your ability
Yeah.
to do it, I'm just telling you what we'll do next month to simplify it.
Shawmut invoice number 13 in the amount of $480,268. Motion made and seconded. Construction.
Payment application number 13.
For construction, yeah.
For construction. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. AMC invoice A 111602 for $400.
This is industrial hygienist.
And I'm going to, motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. A second one in the same amount from AMC, invoice number A 101621, in the amount of $400. Motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Invoice 12481 in the amount of $7,209 for AAIS
Ben, what's that?
That's hazardous material abatement.
abatement. Got to get some mold out of the building. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Two more to go. Special Testing Labs, invoice 30674 in the amount of $934.32. Motion made and seconded.
What is that for?
Materials testing?
One abstention.
Yeah, Rich abstained. Alan, just so you know.
He can't vote on it.
Okay.
He abstained.
So, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Waters Construction, invoice 201601, $9,300. Motion made and seconded.
What's this for?
This is for the parking lot fine grading through the DPW.
Okay.
How do we handle that? Do we handle that as a change order? How did it come through your committee?
No, because we couldn't, because it's not through the contract. It's a separate account set up
Okay.
directly through the DPW and water descriptions for us.
For who?
For ours on top.
Okay, so we have a motion made and seconded with this Waters Construction. This is for fine grading the parking lot prior to paving. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Thank you. Budget transfers and change requests. Are we supposed to be looking at this PCI log, or is that just for the
I make
record?
a general, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it doesn't give, it gives descriptions of what the PCIs are for.
Okay.
What the change requests are for.
First of all, we're requesting that, if you'll notice there in numerical order, change order number 23 has been deleted from tonight, requiring further information, although the schedule refers to change request number 22 and number 25, we're requesting they be taken off the table tonight, requiring further detail.
So just to be sure, change order request 025 is off?
And corrected,
Tabled.
and 022. And you notice change order number 23 has been deleted already, for further
So
consideration.
25 and 22 are coming off?
Yeah,
Tabled.
Correct. Just for tonight.
it's tabled. I don't think we need to vote on that, man. Correct?
No.
No, we just need to use table.
Especially if they're not going to be reported out, it just automatically takes them off the list.
Yeah.
So that takes us to the remaining change order request 18, $1,485. We have the backup that's just been passed out to us with the PCI log.
Did you get this? Okay.
Motion made and seconded.
Yep.
It has been. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next one is change request number 19 for $607. Motion made and seconded. Yes?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next one is change request number 20, which is a credit of $949. Motion made and seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Just very quickly, your log doesn't match this document.
Yeah.
PCI, don't look at PCI numbers, look at.
Yeah, the
either
change
whether it's
request
change
numbers.
request
I
or
am
budget
looking
transfer.
at it. You have change request number 19. You have $589.66, and it's not much. I'm just saying the dollars don't match.
Valid.
Ah.
It's 607.
All right.
I'll check on that. Could be a typo.
So the precedent of the documentation here, though, is, David, it's your report, and that's what you, these are the right numbers.
Correct.
Okay.
Committee is satisfied, and Ben is satisfied, which is more important.
Okay. So the backup is the backup. We'll straighten that out, they can straighten that out. So that leaves us, I think, we left off at change order 21, which is a credit of $23,003. Motion made and seconded.
Yes.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
I always like credits.
Aye.
Change order 22 is tabled. Change order 024, $5,495. Motion made and seconded.
Yes.
Any discussion? Is that breezeway sprinkler issue settled? So this is it?
No.
Yeah, that's the one that's...
That was one of the ones on the exposure list.
So the breezeway sprinkler was on the exposure list, so that will come off. And this specific one actually is just a change in material, not a change in labor.
The work implicated by this actually has already been done,
Okay.
I believe, right?
I guess that's where I was going. Okay. Motion's been made and second regarding change order 24. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Again, passed. Change order 025 is being tabled.
Correct.
Change order, budget transfer number 11 in the amount of $3,776. Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Where is this? What is this?
That comes out of construction contingency, correct?
Yeah, budget transfer is a draw from construction contingency.
Right, all I'm looking for is the,
PCI
Lightning
24.
it's what?
24, PCI 24.
If you go back one page.
Yep, I see it. Hearing any discussion regarding budget transfer number 11? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Okay. Any other issues as far as budget transfers or changes?
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
This Waters invoice, is this being paid through the project?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. She said it wasn't contracted, it's through.
Yes, yeah, it was a DPW hire, if you will, but it's back charged to the project.
Okay.
So how do you handle that? You can handle it, well, we voted on it, but is it a budget transfer? Is it a change order?
It's going to have to, I'm not sure from the purchasing end standpoint how you account for it from your end, but we've accounted for it through owner's contingency, right? But I'm not sure how Corinne specifically draws.
Well, it's an increase in the water's price, right?
Well,
It won't be an increase in their contract. They weren't contracted through us. They did it directly through the town.
it becomes really a soft
All right.
cost to the project, but.
I'm going to leave that between you and purchasing, just as long as we have
Yeah,
it
that's fine. Thank you.
straightened out.
Yep.
Or not straightened out, but just properly
It'll get
recorded,
paid.
properly accounted for. Do we have any other issues related to change order requests?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So there is one issue, the two bioswales out along Fairfield Beach Road. We will have to do something with those, whether it's topsoil and seed, or whether it's the full scope of plantings that was priced out with the GMP as an add alternate. I don't know if you're even in a position to take that up tonight.
If it comes to us in the position of a change order, we are in the position.
Okay. Do you know what that value
Yeah,
was?
it's on this PCI list. The
I mean, we've got to stick with our,
PCI 15 was the original change order I sent in a while ago regarding what the GMP add alternate was for the bioswale plantings. So that would be the complete landscaping package with all plants shown on the drawings.
15?
We meet at that meeting, we agreed to it.
And then the last one, 33, is a PCO for stabilization of the bioswale, which would be a seeded winter rye mix with all the topsoil, compost mulch, hay to stabilize the seed, and then a winter rye, which would be able to stabilize.
Which change request is that?
The last one, PCI 33.
So,
Gotcha.
so, we have a issue here, we can't leave it the way it is.
Not first big occupancy, no.
So we either landscape it, which I already know you're going to start rolling your eyes on, or somehow we've got to get it ready for a CO, so which means topsoil and protection.
The committee felt that this should be discussed at this meeting rather than a decision made at the subcommittee.
Yeah.
That's why it's being discussed now, not as a change order.
And it's also a time issue, right?
We do need to do something quickly.
Yeah.
And this happens to be like the drop dead date if the committee did want to go ahead with that landscaping
So
this fall.
does it fall under the category of a construction change directive? So in other words, you would feel that you direct this work because of the schedule, ramifications, and the CO?
We would speak with Colliers about the strategy for that, Sean,
Yeah.
but yeah, it certainly could be, but as long as the committee's
Well, we
authorizing the
tonight
expenditure.
discuss it, approve it, and direct you on the basis of a construction change directive. And it would seem to me, if you're trying to maintain the schedule, and you're trying to make sure that we have a CO, we've got to do something. Is that the only other issue regarding landscaping or anything else, parking, striping, signage, anything else blocking a CO?
No, I can just add to that a little bit, just maybe to clarify this whole bioswale thing and to answer some questions that will come up. I know at some of the past meetings, we talked about it, and we talked about holding off on the planting, and we had probably told you a couple meetings ago that we were really looking to get an answer on that because of the timing of acquiring the plants and getting the plants in before it was too late. So we had a conversation today with the landscaper. The landscaper who was on site now with plants and doing all the planting that was approved at the front of the building, he kind of let me know that the plants that were originally picked out for the bioswale, he looked in with his supplier, and all of the plants that were set up for the original planting schedule for the bioswale are at the nursery. They have not been sent back or put away yet, and they are available. And there's, I don't want to say there's a hold on them, but we keep an eye on them. The landscape architect who, I kind of got his permission to speak on his behalf a little bit tonight. My question to him was, do you feel as though it's too late to put that planting in at this point in time? And his comment was that it's the fine time to do it. The temperatures have been good, and that's the only reason we can continue with the whole package if you decided to go that route. And it was sort of his opinion that it would be definitely something that would hold that bioswale together much better through the winter with the plants set in it versus the rye. The rye will work with some straw mat. It could hold it for the winter, but it really depends on what type of winter you have.
So this is a weather-driven issue at the moment?
It's weather.
Schedule and weather-driven.
If we get an answer tonight, one way or the other, we will make something happen starting next week. With the cold temperatures, kind of looking at the forecast, it seems as though the next week or so is good. Beyond the next week or so, it's a little bit of a anybody's guess, welcome to New England kind of thing. If we get an answer tonight, we are in a position to either fully plant the bioswale, which it'll be done, and I think all those numbers are already in, or we go to the winter rye. The only issue we have with doing the winter rye is it really is going to depend on the building department. If they feel as though that stabilization we put in with just the winter rye is really going to be enough to maintain that through the winter. If you get a good storm, you get a good washout, there's a potential that winter rye could get a little mucky.
If you go with PCI 33, which is $16,785, is that money lost if you...
Ultimately, that money would be lost because in the spring, you are going to have to plant that bioswale based on the...
You would have some of the organic matter in the bottom, but you'd be disturbing a lot of it to plant it again.
Yeah.
Right. So what we're facing here is change request 10, which has been tabled and put aside for $34,504, or
540, yeah.
PCI 033. Are those the two options?
Jim, can we vote on this? Are we outside the agenda? on a special
We can vote on a change order. Review and approval of any outstanding change order requests.
Okay.
Review and confirmation of any authorized or pending construction change directives.
For your edification, the reason it's not on the change order sheet that we talked about is when the subcommittee discussed it with Ben, we figured this was an issue that should maybe not be decided at the subcommittee. Most of these change orders, there's not a lot of discussion that takes place. Not that I want people to realize that effort goes into this thing. We just felt it's best to have the whole committee talk about it. Otherwise, it would have been on the committee, we would have voted it before. That's the reason. So in case you're wondering why we're discussing this out of order, that's the reason.
No, that's a good call. Do you have, Ben, do you have it in your exposure list or not?
I do.
He has change request number 10 in the exposure, or 26 in the exposure list.
$17,000 exposure.
Yeah. So it'd be about $18,000 increase in exposure.
Right.
From accepting the option.
Well, let's discuss it. Do anybody have,
I'll tell you, not that everybody doesn't live around there, I drive by this every day. And my concern is the public relations thing. As people drive by in the wintertime, all they're gonna be able to make an evaluation of the success or the failure is what it looks like. And anything we can do to make that whole facility look good, I think is important. And although I didn't think I'd ever say this thing, I'm encouraging.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I preface it, I'm encouraging spending some money because I think if we can make it look as good as it is through the winter, as people drive by, they won't think this was a wasted project or something like that. So therefore, I'm in favor of spending the money, subject to the fact it makes some sense. And I think we hear from the architect it makes some sense, so.
They don't drive by and think about the time we're spending over the past 3 years?
Again, I think, I'll tell you what people say. They were amazed that the building could be moved. They're amazed that it come back, that it looks as good, because again, these are my neighbors, and they come to me because I'm one of the few people on the committee. And they're very pleased, at least in the air. I just think anything we can make it to look nice is something like, as people drive by, I think is in the town's best interest, and secondarily the committee's best interest. That's all I'll say on the subject.
Yes?
So if we do these plantings and it doesn't take, even though they're saying we have time, is there any?
They're warranted.
They're warranted.
They're warranted?
Yeah,
Okay,
for
that's my
one
question.
season,
I just
yeah.
want to make sure that they're saying it's okay.
And that was discussed as well with, I don't mean to speak for your guy, but we talked about this at great length today, just to make sure that he was really satisfied with if we did put these plants in. And his comment was, you know what, they're going to lay dormant for the winter. He said you might lose one or two of them just because you typically lose one or two plants regardless when you're putting in that quantity. He said you replace those one or two in the spring and you'll be fine. But it was really his opinion that we had the right temperatures and the right time, and putting them in now would not be a harm to the plants, because they would go in, they would sort of get sort of stabilized in there, and they would lay dormant until the spring, and they would start doing their thing as soon as we got the warm weather.
Ben from Colliers, who's kind of a trap question. So as we look at the 164,895 of your pending exposure list, can that list take a $17,000 hit? Is there stuff in there? Is there $17,000 worth of fluff? Do you want to?
The answer to your question is yes, on the merit that I track all exposures on this
Yes.
list, and there are a handful, if not more, that are on the list for allowances.
Right,
That we talked about tonight.
right.
So that in and of itself is going to alleviate 5, 6, 7 of these items, particularly down towards the bottom of the list.
But to the point where if we approve this tonight and added $17,000 to our exposures, would we 2 or 3 weeks later still be at about 164?
I think that we're going to be about there, because
Okay.
like we just talked about, some of these items will move to allowances. Once we understand what the pre-construction invoice and the bigger numbers will happen, then it might be better in a few weeks, but yeah, I think that this is a
Some of the
pretty-
credits may change,
Yeah.
some of the credits may increase,
And-
which will offset it.
This-
Correct?
These are really
Ben?
conservative numbers too, right?
I understand that.
We estimate conservative.
Our goal is to bring this project in on time and under budget, period. So this is change order number 10. We've discussed it. I'd entertain a motion to approve change order number 10 to stay within our agenda items, and a second, if there's such a thing. Motion's been made,
I'll second.
seconded. Can I roll a tape from the meeting where you made your big speech a year ago?
Fools rush in where wise men fear to tread.
I think you should say this meeting,
Yeah.
Steve.
No, I think one of the biggest caveats towards approving this
Yeah.
was getting
Getting
past
here.
getting past the threshold of having the mechanical system fully up and running, getting past the big threshold of having the restart and everything. We got past that. There's limited impact from that activity.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
And I think the risk of putting in the winter ryegrass and the matting is that not only are we going to probably have to tear it out in the spring, that it doesn't take, we have to get that grass, even though it has matting and it has to be able to grow a little bit. And if we do get cold fast, that grass the seed won't go. So I think it makes complete sense to approve change order number 10.
Tagging onto that, Andrew, item 37, which is $10,000 for HVAC, additional HVAC repairs. We have a $10,000 allowance if we don't even think we're going to use all of these repairs, so that 10 grand can come right off this list.
Right.
There's a lot of things. I don't think we should be horse trading
No.
ideas.
No,
Just
the issue
pointing it
was,
out.
the issue,
We
yeah.
turned all the units on in the last 2 days.
But I think Steve and I weren't alone, but I know Steve was a big proponent of waiting on improving this landscaping to the mechanical stuff, and we weren't alone in that.
Right. No, I think we're in good shape. So does change order 10 do it as far as Shawman is concerned? You can release the landscaping guy on that basis of that? We approve that tonight?
Yeah, absolutely.
He will be told tomorrow morning. He's actually kind of waiting on the answer one way or the other, and he
Sitting
said
in
he
the
will
truck
call
outside
his
the landscape.
supplier and have the plants delivered literally on Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
You're going to wrap the whole building in burlap now, right?
Yeah, right. For the winter.
Something that looks like burlap.
The motion is made and seconded. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Change order 10. Just to
Rich?
Make sure.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you all. I think this is a good move.
Yeah.
Anything else that's schedule specific and critically important? We don't have new business. We don't have old business. This is a special meeting. And entertain, our agenda items limited. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Move made second. Thank you.
All good.
Meeting is over.
When's our next meeting, Jeff?